This is Saul, and this is Abraham, and this is the roadmap to success. Now, Saul here is 14, is that right? And Abraham is what, 8 months? So, I mean, he's the young buck, and he's trying to push his way around. And I think, I don't see anything that I would consider aggression out of him. I just think that he's trying, just like any other situation, you have the young one that comes to try to usurp the old one. And this is kind of, a little bit of what happens in nature is the dominant male is eventually ostracized by the younger, as Mother Nature kicks in and Father Time impacts us, right, buddy? So he's a little bit trepidatious around Abraham at certain times. I think a lot of this is because he had some rules. I mean, he wasn't allowed in the furniture, but he was allowed to kind of tell his humans what to do. He invaded their space. And he's a puppy. He does a lot of puppy things. He was chewing on, the guardian was writing down some notes, and he was kind of trying to bite at it. So we spent some time going over an exercise to show how to, there we go. So that's what I was talking about earlier. This is off subject, but he came over, he was sniffing towards him, and I gave him some affection for doing that. So I'm creating a positive association. So, if the dog is a lot of it is he's just a puppy still. But, I mean, he wants what he wants, and he was pushing, trying to get too close to his guardian. So we spent a couple minutes defining personal space, and that's a good habit to get into. Nothing wrong with the dog being on your lap or leaning against you if you invite it in. Or the dog's coming and touching you lightly, that's a way of showing affection. The dog's coming up and climbing on top of you, putting its paw on you, really with some force. They're trying to dominate you and tell you what to do. And if the dog nudges at me enough and I do it, at what he wants, then yeah, I have the dominion over the human because I tell the human what to do and he does it. So that means I'm responsible for the human. If I'm responsible, then I'm an authority figure. And if an authority figure is a dog, then I can also correct those that I perceive to have less authority. In this case, the kids. So we went through a lot of different exercises. I want to make sure the kids practice the bump exercise that I just demonstrated at the end. We want to do the focus exercise, and there's a lot of examples of that on doggoneproblems.com if you want to go search for it. Let me see, we also did the leadership exercise, and that's one I haven't shot a video of a while, but he did really good with that, especially with all the little kids. And so I'd like to remember when we're doing that, we want to, once he starts laying down, pretty much where he's at now, if he continues the same way, then as soon as he lays down, then a couple things. Make sure we're not sitting down before he's sitting down first. And as soon as he sits down, we take a big step backwards. As soon as he lays down, we take another step backwards. And at first, as soon as he lays down, instead of taking a step backwards, we're going to give him permission to have the treat. What we're going to wait is for him to start laying down right away. Then we're going to wait 5 seconds. And instead of walking up next to it, we're just going to lean forward and tap. Now, ideally, I'd like to have the person over here in the middle of the room and tossing the treat this way and walking backwards this way, facing this way. So that way we can sit down on the couch and eventually we can watch TV because eventually he's going to have to wait for up to 15 minutes before he gets the treat. Now, remember, he can get up and move around the room as long as he respects the 3+ foot boundary to the treat. But as soon as he tries to go for it, then we use the escalating consequence to march him away, and then the clock starts again. And the idea is we want to get within 7 to 10 days where he can lay down for 15 minutes with everybody in the house. And when we do this, I would do a chart and do it in structured order. So first dad does it. In this case, probably mom does it, then dad does it. Then we're going to do the kids based on the order of their age. And at first, then we're going to wait 5 seconds after he lays down before we give him permission to get the treat. Then 10, then 15, then 30, 45 seconds, and then 1 minute, and go by 1 minute increments up to 15 minutes. Now, ideally, we'd like to be sitting down when we're doing this, but make sure, again, that he is at least sitting down before you sit down. If he gets up, you mirror him. You get up as well. All right, so I'd also like everyone to start petting him with a purpose rather than when he demands attention. And I'd like the kids to start petting him, asking him to do something as our way of saying thank you. We're going to ask him to do something and pet him to say thank you. Now, because we'd also like to use passive training. So every time the dog comes to us and on his own, we're going to pet him and say come. Every time he sits down next to us, we pet him and say sit. Every time he lays down, pet him and say here, down. So we're going to let him do the thing that we want. Anytime he does a desirable action, we're going to pet him immediately within that 3-second window and then say the command word, and just the command word. Not good dog, not go potty, just potty or come or whatever it is. Now, because we have 3 kids in the house, I suggest that we use positive reinforcement for the kids. I'm all about positive dog training. Well, we can use the same principle for the kids. So if all the kids have a little glass or vessel or mug of some sort that's decorated with their name on it, every time they tell mom and dad that I petted with a purpose, or I passive trained, or I made him go to his dog bed, or whatever it is, mom and dad takes an M&M, puts it in their jar. But if the child pets without a purpose, we take that M&M away. Now, to avoid taking them away, we might say, would you like to tell them to do something right now? And the kid asks him to sit, then we put the M&M back in the jar. Then at the end of the day, we dump all the kids grab their jar, they dump it on their plate, and then they count up who had the most M&Ms. Whoever had the most M&Ms or whatever the treat is, gets a special reward. Gets to not do dishes or gets a special, whatever it is. You guys come up with your own dynamic. I have one family that she goes and buys a special dessert. There's only one, and only the kid with the most M&Ms get that. And then all her kids get to eat the M&Ms for lunch the next day, so they don't have a sugar high at the end of the day. But dogs go through repetition and consistency and good timing. And so if the kids are on the same page and are motivated to get the dog to do the right thing, now you have, if each kid does 25 things a day that we like, we got 75 things a day at the end of the week. If I do math, I could give you a number here, but that's a lot of repetitions. The dog is going to start responding better and better. So remember, if we see somebody petting the dog without earning it, we're going to say, earn it, or come up with whatever the word is. We immediately stop petting the dog, tell it to sit. When he sits, we pet it and say sit, and that way we're all on the same page. I'd like to practice the approach that we showed in the video here, where when the dog has anything that we're worried about, we're going to come over and we're going to have the kids come over and toss a treat. Now, we did it as a circuit here, but it'd be better if just the kid just, hey, over there, go toss a treat, and then walk away. So it's just sprinkled throughout the day. Remember when he has low-value items, like an antler or a nylabone or something like that, we can have one of the kids go over and hold the treat, just hold it right in front of his nose. Don't tell him to do anything. Don't move, don't try to push it in his mouth, just hold it about 1 inch away. And as soon as he drops it, pop the treat in his mouth and say the word drop, and then walk away. Don't pick up the item. So we're just going to teach him to drop, and then it's beneficial to drop. But I want to do a lot of variations of walking towards him, tossing the treat, and having the kids walk away. I'd also like to make sure that Soloman feels comfortable. Soloman's the old dog. He's been here with the family for over a decade, but the young guy has really got him on edge. So we're going to need to look for his warning signs. I covered some of these with the Guardian off camera. The first thing he's probably going to do is stare, either direct stare or staring to the side like this. A lot of times with a lowered head. Sometimes they will hold their breath and freeze. Sometimes they breathe really heavy. Sometimes they will be in an awkward position that kind of frozen. So those are all signs. If I see any of those signs from him, I'm going to look at what he's staring at. And if he's staring near the other dog, I would use the escalating consequences. Stand up. Hiss first. Stand up. Get in between him and the other dog and do what I had Dad do. Move Abraham away from the area. And instead of using the kennel as a negative, we're going to use the leash timeout. You can also go to doggoneproblems.com and search for escalating consequences to see videos for those. I'd like to maybe come up with a naughty dog name for him as well, so that we can use that when he's doing the wrong thing, but the rest of the time he hears something, it's a good positive thing. Make sure you're doing the focus exercise. And again, 1 second at first, and then eventually 1 second, 20 seconds. So if you go to Doggone Problems, I have a bunch of videos where I kind of explain how to extrapolate that as well. And then different rules, enforcing rules. The dog has to sit before we let it in or out of a door. It has to be in the carpet, not being allowed on the hardwood floor when we're at the dinner table. Just what I just demonstrated off camera at the door, that's what you would do for the kitchen if you don't want them in the kitchen when you're cooking. Now again, recreating a situation can be very helpful. We want to help and communicate to the dog how we want them to behave. And we do that by helping them practice it in structure or in a scenario where it's more of a classroom setting. So instead of actually cooking a real meal, maybe go get a piece of roast beef and microwave it, put it on the counter, and now it smells all sorts of deliciousness. And then you can practice having the dog stay behind whatever the line is, wherever you feel it appropriate in the kitchen, and then pretend like you're cooking, simulate like you're cooking. And eventually you can do it while you're actually cooking, but you want to give yourself a little bit of a margin for error so that if he does something wrong, you're not worried about burning the souffle or whatever it is. Let me see, what else? The kennel. Make sure the kids are walking up the kennel and tossing treats at the kennel in the same way. And for him, leaving treats on the dog bed or in the kennel, as well as dog toys, I would get definitely some more antlers, some more things, hard chewable things, so that he has more items that he can actually, so he doesn't need to defend them all. What else? There's something else I wanted to go over. I can't remember. I'm sure I will remember shortly. Never tell yourself you can't remember. That gives your brain permission to forget. I will remember in a second. The Guardians can always call me if they have any questions. So we're going to go ahead and I guess wrap this one up here. I will probably remember this as soon as we get done filming. But remember, everything that you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.